The age-old unfounded Guatemala claim remains an issue that successive governments have had to address. Since 2008, following the signing of a compromise between Belize and Guatemala with the support of the Organization of American States, it appears that the issue is headed to the International Court of Justice, pending the results of a referendum. Going to the ICJ does not sit well with a large number of Belizeans who argue that Belize has nothing to gain by doing so. The Belize Progressive Party has maintained that the ICJ is not the only option to get the matter settled. In fact, they claim the two major political parties have done everything in their power to confuse the Belizean people. Paco Smith, a chairman of the Belize Progressive Party, says going to the International Court of Justice is taking a huge risk.
As matters stand right now under the compromise that was signed in 2008, if the Belizean public vote to go to the ICJ, number one, well, we already mentioned that we don't know precisely what Guatemala is asking. Number two, it's a binding decision that is unappealable, right? With the specter of Guatemala wanting at least half of our country, the risks going that route far outweigh whatever potential benefits the powers that be are saying we can derive from going to the ICJ. Now, to directly answer your question, yes, there is a possibility that the UN Security Council may say, okay, well, we decide you should take it to the ICJ. But in so doing, by virtue of taking it to the UN Security Council, that will in effect recalibrate Belize's foreign policy with regards to this. Because the crux of the matter is this: going to the ICJ or going to referendum under the aegis of the current compromise, it's not in Belize's favor by any stretch of the imagination.
The BPP has three steps as proposed solutions. The first would be taking the compromise document to the Senate for it to be ratified. The second step proposed is removing ceding territory so that the public has an input, which would be to amend the clauses so that there is an option of ruling monetary compensation in the event Belize loses at the ICJ. The third step is to force Guatemala to go to the UN National Security.
Taking this matter to the UN Security Council, yes, they may say, we recommend that we get a recommendation from the ICJ, but that will reset the button in terms of how Belize is addressing this issue. So it's a recalibration.
Robert Lopez, treasurer of the BPP, has raised a concern about the absence of the British military in the dispute.
If I may add, that one of the things that we feel is very, very necessary is where is Britain in all of this? We know that Britain is supporting financially from the outset the Guatemala-Belize confidence building measures. In fact, we know that it was Britain that funded our Prime Minister now when he went for his Spanish lessons in Guatemala to get him a little more versed in Spanish so that he can be a part of this. So we know that Britain is behind the scenes funding a lot of this that is taking place. But where is Britain in actually bringing itself back in? And we've been calling for that, and our political leader has been very, very vehement about calling for Britain to get back. Let's have it as a Belize, Guatemala, United Kingdom, Britain, whatever, England dispute, and let's settle it based on that, because we feel that in keeping with the resolution that says that any settlement should not affect the territorial integrity and sovereignty.
Last weekend, we told you about BPP's Louis Espat, who had protested against the Guatemalan rides that come to Belize annually. When Love News spoke to the operators, we learned that the protests actually affected their income. Today at the press conference, Espat was commended for his good act, and the Belize Progressive Party went a step further in their plans for boycotting. Public Relations Director Charles Leslie Jr. spoke about their campaign.
Brother Espat went out to our bar and he protested, and he had an impact. hundreds of people may not have joined him, but hundreds of people didn't show up to those rides, those Guatemalan-owned rides. So we are calling and we're continuing this call and the civil
Boycott.
disobedience to boycott all Guatemalan products.
Yes.
And we move as far as saying we need to start boycotting all Belizean businesses that sell Guatemalan products. We don't need to pick up a gun to make change in this country. We don't need to burn tires in the streets, and we don't need to break anything. Our pocket is more powerful than Guatemala's pocket. Our money is worth more, it's valued more. So it's time for us to start speaking with our pockets.
And while the BPP is calling for a boycott of Guatemalan products, in our newscast last night, we brought you the views of Mayor Darrell Bradley as they relate to the recent boycotting activities undertaken by some Belizeans.